tennis racket, life jacket, yoga mat, and a kill zone. I'm going nuts. Stay tuned, it'll make sense. I promise. Okay, so arrow penetration, it matters. Yeah, it does matter. There's a fan buzzing in the background because it's about 957 degrees here in Texas. It's about 2.5 months before deer season. Everybody's getting wound up. I'm getting more texts and emails, and I can see the activity coming. So this is something I wanted to discuss, and I like to use a simple example for how arrows penetrate target and what really matters. So I've assembled household stuff, and it'll make some sense here in just a second. Let's establish one thing. The kill zone on your target animal is not on the crease above the elbow. That's your aiming point. The kill zone is to get the broadhead through, that's about 12 or 13 inches between the thorax, in the thorax, between the rib cage, behind the ribs, and in front of the other set of ribs. That's the kill zone. That's where things die. So your aiming point should always be lower 1/3, straight up the leg, about 1.5 inches in front of the crease, right in the pocket, right in the vital V, as they say. But your broadhead goes through a tremendous amount of different substrates, and I'm going to use these basic items to kind of show you what you have to consider is going on, and then your choice of broadheads, of course, is going to be, it's just logic. Just think about that. I do like the fact that on top of the target, there's a picture that said that this target is for field points, for broadheads, and for expandables. If you watch my channel, you know I'm not much on the expandables, and I like the fact that it's a different thing. It's not a broadhead. So I'm using the yoga mat as the exterior skin and hair. It's moderately flexible and just a very easy thing for everyone to conceptualize. Then I'm using the life jacket to simulate meat. So in the shoulder area where you're supposed to shoot animals, there's actually the shoulder meat, and it's not all shoulder blade. Here's a picture of a skeleton. I took a picture at the Smithsonian. All animals are designed like this. So the shoulder blade's actually tilted up, and the leg bone goes like this, and you can shoot through the vital V, and it's very, very vital. Lower 1/3, right above the elbow, on the crease or a little bit in front of it. That's the vital V. The shoulder blade is not there, it's just all ribs. That's not really my concern here. My concern is that you get in your head that your broadhead's got to go through skin, some level of meat, and then hits a rib cage, okay? Yeah, I know. It's tennis racket strings. I gotta pin this up real quick. Doesn't everybody have the sticker off of a 200-pound stingray laying around their garage? Well, I do. Holds it up just fine. Your broadhead has got to cut the skin, cut through some level of meat at some level, okay? And then hits another substrate that's different. And all of these pieces are individually moving separate from each other. So the shoulder blade meat is on top and actually slides. That's how they can run, right? It's moving just like this, okay? The skin is not a fixed object either. It's moving around. So your broadhead enters, hits multiple densities. I mean, it cuts pretty simple meat, and then it hits something harder, right? God forbid you hit the shoulder blade or something like that. And then when you introduce angles, everything gets longer. So the skin gets a little longer, the meat gets longer, and then the broadhead has to hit ribs. And on a quartering shot, you're going to hit multiple ribs. Here's the rib cage broadside. Here's the rib cage angled, and the broadhead is coming in like that, right? So it's like a picket fence. Broadside, you're here, and you can shoot through, and you'll get, a little better opportunity to penetrate. But when that animal turns at any angle, you're starting to introduce this cutting across multiple ribs at a time and increasing the level of work that your broadhead has to do. So most people don't talk about this. Like I said, the kill zone is after it penetrates the ribs. It's not shot placement. It's not your aiming point. It's after it penetrates right here. This is where the work is done. And then obviously this corresponding piece would be on the other side, right, out on the exit. But the kill zone's in between the rib cage, and you've got to get through all of this before you can kill anything. Man, that's good looking. I didn't see that. I don't even know what that is. So when you start to consider all of these different kind of broadheads, right, you got the really wide mechanical. This is Trypan. They're super popular these days. And then you got something that actually cuts on entry and has very low resistance when it hits. It's just going to start cutting, and everything is a cutting edge. Now, some people could argue that the Trypan is all cutting edges, but that those blade angles offer some incredible resistance factors that are best shown on this target. This is the mechanical's greatest weakness, is anytime you get an angle. So for optimum results with a mechanical broadhead, it would hit straight on and open completely plumb, and it would have the most amount of leverage it could possibly have. The trouble comes when you angle the shot. The shot goes in like this, and you've got this blade opening at a much different angle than this one. You could say the tip is anchored, but it's really not that anchored. And so it's just skin and meat right now. So it's relatively flexible as it is. There's nowhere for the energy to go but this direction. I think every broadhead has some propensity to lever when it hits at an angle. Because you have inconsistent blade deployment, like that right there. Look at these blades. They're going in differently. You're gonna have a lever because there's a giant air gap on this side, and this side's touching, and it's gonna want a lever, okay? It's gonna want to kick, and it's gotta keep going, and then what's gonna happen, it's gonna hit denser material. So it's gonna hit skin, it starts to lever a little bit, and then there's ribs back there, and then that's gonna really lever it because you've opened this giant hole. Now we've all seen pictures on websites and message boards and everything where these have these massive wounds, you know, like that. That's completely consistent with the broadhead. So if it's, you know, 2 inches wide and it levers, it's going to cut kind of sideways as it goes in. But what you have is you have the back of the shaft just swimming around and flying sideways. With a cutting point head, an adult broadhead, you have more opportunity for consistency going in, and the blades are fixed and cutting their way in, as opposed to deployment that is inconsistent and wobbling all over the place. I mean, the thing is designed with a pin in the middle, all of them at some level, to move around, right? I mean, the blades can move all over the place. Some people say, well, that's to go around the bones, but it's 2 inches wide. You'd have to shoot completely vertical every time and slip it in between the ribs, and when that happens, absolutely, it's a winner. But the animals do this thing called moving. There's a card gonna pop up right here for my animals jumping the string video, and I think this is something we are not researching. I'm gonna start doing it at a deeper level. The fact that the animals are moving, rolling, and trying to get away because they hear the arrow approaching, which I think that's what it is. I think it's a combination of the bow thumping, and then there's something flying through the air, and it's unnatural to them. They've made it this long, right? I was talking to Dr. Grant Woods, and he said, Troy, you're not hunting. You know, you're not hunting the dummies. The fat ones got eaten. You're hunting the best ones, the ones that survived everything, especially a 3 or 4 or 5-year-old buck. He's survived a lot of things. And so anything unnatural to him, he's going to try to get away from and figure out what it is. He's not going to stand there and go, I wonder what that is. Those guys got eaten. They got processed. Get this in your head. I talked to Dr. Ashby about this. It's in his writings. An arrow is flying. It's always flying through something. The molecules are very consistent in air. You have a little fog and stuff, but da-da-da. Once it hits the animal, you have this abrupt impact, on the unknown. And these annoying things called ribs and shoulder blades and bones are part of the game. So when you're considering a broadhead, I really am going to tell you, fixed blade broadheads are very, very hard to beat for this particular situation. When an animal rolls or moves, it's going to give you the best opportunity to penetrate. Cut on contacts to the next level, and then a monolith, one-piece machined head is the ultimate structural integrity head out there to handle the unknown. You got your yoga mat, your tennis racket, and your life jacket here. That's what your broadhead does. So when you're considering arrow penetration, just sit this in your head. That's all I'm asking. There'll be some more videos like this. Hit subscribe and hit like, forward this to your friends, and punch it out there on social media for me. This is the Ranch Fairy. Feel free to email me, troy@ranchfairy.com, if you have any questions. And stay tuned. More to come. Thanks for watching. Ranch Fairy out. Yeah, it's recording. I'm over here and we're doing a little hunting this morning with my super tactical deer blind. I don't know if you guys have any couches out in the field, but God, it's a lot more comfortable than actual like wooden deer blinds, because that's a freaking nightmare.